All right, folks. So welcome along today. As I mentioned, we're going to busy day. We're going to work through a whole heap of stuff. And so for me, I guess the big element from today is let's build this quick and dirty plan and let's get stuck into it. Now, the agenda, we're going to talk through some key concepts in planning and productivity. We're going to talk then about building your annual operating plan, which is about three things. Where are we now? Where are we going to be? And some of that I'll be talking about some numbers, so growth by numbers stuff. Um, and then we're going to talk about how you make that happen. And then the important part is about how we cascade, and we'll talk about the importance of cascading in a little while. I'd like to talk a bit about improving your productivity and some sort of tools we use in that space. No point in building a plan and having a great plan if you're not going to actually implement it and make it happen. And so personal productivity is really important in that space for making that happen. So let's let's talk about the workbooks. So I provide you with two workbooks, and the reason there's two is because we pulled this together in I guess a bit of a hurry, and I didn't have enough time to build a comprehensive workbook that was editable for you, and therefore I thought what I'd do was give you the pre-work workbook so you could do some thinking analysis before we started, and then a workshop manual for you work through today. Now that workshop manual is an editable PDF, so you can actually type into it or you can print it out as I discussed. So you're probably going to need to work out how you can organize your online workspace to allow that to happen. If you've got two screens, just put one on one screen and the Zoom on the other one, and you'll be fine. You can also just make notes. It's not that complex a process that you won't be able to work out, what's happening and how we make it work, right? So the planning process is there. Just think through how you make your notes and how you pull it together. Okay. So let's get into some concepts. First one is now we're how. Like it's a really simple concept. It's the backbone of all good problem solving and planning systems. Basically, where are we now, where we want to be in the future, and how we're going to get there. And why it's important is because most people don't spend much time thinking about the where, right? Where do you want to be and what are you going to what do you want to achieve and what are the outcomes? We spend a lot of time worrying about the now and fixing problems in the now. We jump straight from now to how. And if you're in this space here where you're constantly, constant issues are the same issues popping up again, it's because you're not spending enough time over here because the where is the place that gives us context, right? So it allows us to decide how we're going to fix things because some of the things you're fixing in your business aren't mission critical. Some of those problems that are popping up, you're not getting to the root cause of them. And so, the where is really, really important. So keep that in the back of your mind when you're thinking about planning and stuff. This now, where, how model. Where are we now? Where do you want to be in the future? You're trying to do any problem solving? Think about what's the outcome you want and what you're aiming to fix. Must, should, could. This is all about productivity and making things happen. Like my clients will be sick of me talking about this, but I found it's a very, very simple tool for prioritizing the mission critical actions, the things we must do in order to get things to happen, right? And therefore, we often focus on all the things. We have big lists of things that we have to do, but we don't focus on the things that we must do. And I have a system where I try and focus on two, maybe three must do's every day, right? And that they're strategic things that I need to do over and above the business as usual stuff that's going on in my business every day, client calls and all that sort of stuff. They're must do's, but they're not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about actions that we need to take that are going to move you forward or allow you to deliver something in your business. So it could be a deadline. You need to get a proposal done. You need to get a project complete. You need to do something. That's a must do, but often we confuse too many things. And what happens is we end up with this process where we have a big long list of things that looks daunting, but not everything on it's a must do. Some of those things we should do, some of them we could do. So we're going to talk a bit about must, should, could as a prioritization tool down the track because it's really important for us. Okay, cascading plans, and this is at the heart of today. And so my sort of thinking and my model for this is we should have a strategic plan where, if you think about, you think about being strategic, you think about being tactical, you think about being operational. At a strategic level, the timeframes are longer and much shorter, and the detail much more action orientated down at this level than we are at this level, the big picture. And I find too many people build, too much detail on the strategic plan. We've got the strategic plan down and we're trying to work out what we're going to be doing in September 2027, right? It's too much detail at the wrong level. So what I'd encourage you to do is to cascade your plan so you get the detail at the right level. So we have a 3 to 5 year strategic plan. We then go, okay, so that's big picture. If you haven't got one of those, happy to talk to you about how we build one of those for your business. And then we start to go, righto. And this is where the rubber starts to hit the road. What do we have to do in the next year if we're going to hit our 3 to 5 year goals? Yeah. And then the next piece is, if that's our annual plan, what are we going to do in the first quarter in the next 90 days to help execute that plan? We don't have to do everything in that plan in the first 90 days, but what things we need to do in the next 90 days. And then I've built a system where we go, okay, if that's where we're going to be in 90 days, this is where we're going to be in a month. This is what we need to do in the first month. This is what we need to do in the first week of that month. This is what we need to do day to day. So we get some linkages between strategy and action. Okay. So today we're just going to talk about building this annual plan, which is, for me, the cornerstone of all this sort of stuff. Strategic plan's a bit bigger picture, but you definitely got to have an annual plan each year, and then we need to cascade it. All right. I hope that makes sense. Giving you in the workbook, there's an annual operating plan. It's a simple concept. It's a simple plan, and it's basically, now we're how. So it's just some simple stuff on the key issues, some stuff on the where, so where we're going to go, and then the last piece here is about the how. All right, I hope that makes sense. I guess the workbook in the workbook, there's an editable operating plan for you there. But I'll get you to work through the components in the workbook that build that plan, and you can fill out the one-page version of it later. We'll also send you some resources, and you'll have a separate template for an annual operating plan. So if you want to have it as a separate document, that's fine as well. We'll send you that, and also for a 90-day plan as well. Okay, so let's really hook into this. The now. So the now is just really thinking about where are we now, having some real clarity around that. And I guess that's what the point of the pre-work was. And I want to do the pre-work because some of this now stuff takes a bit of thinking through, right? And I know a number of you jumped on board and did the diagnostics, which is really good. So I noticed about 40 or 50 diagnostics got done, which is fantastic. That quick assessment, what's gone well, what hasn't gone well, what do you need to change, sort of stuff's really important. Because sometimes that's just a snapshot. I talked to you about optionally doing a bit of a review of your financials. That's important, but probably not as important. You'll know whether you're making money or not down the track. And then lastly, I guess the magic wand exercise. And the magic wand exercise is a really simple tool that allows you to get some real focus on what are the big issues. Now, everybody thinks the magic wand is a vision tool, but it's not. It's actually a tool for working out what the problems are now, because you say, if I have a magic wand and could change anything I like, these are all the things I'd change. Well, the flip side of those is they're all the problems in your business. It's not a visioning tool as far as I'm concerned. So hopefully you've done some of that. If not, you're just going to have to make it up on the run. Okay. So let's just jump into the now here. And the first thing I want you to do, so I'm going to get you to fill out this template in the workbook as we go. So the first one's going to be on sort of page 4. And I want you to review your pre-work, make a couple of notes and summarize some of the top issues that you need to address in the last 12 months. And then the important part of this is I want you to list some of those issues, but importantly, you probably need to put down where are sales at in your business at the moment, because we're going to use that in a later session when we talk about the numbers. And how is it, and then just think about how important is it that you address these issues, and are there any clear must-dos in it? Now, we're a little bit behind time, so I'm going to get you to just take a couple of minutes to do that, so 3 or 4 minutes. So I want you to work on that in your as you're going at the moment on your own stuff. And then if you've got any questions, please just type them into the chat box and I'll try and address them for you. Okay, so jump in, just fill out that section, page 4 of your workbook, and just tell me those important things. So, what are the top 5 issues? Well, it might be the top 3 issues. It doesn't have to be 5, right? What are the 3 things you need to address? What's your current level of sales? So you've got some context for some of this stuff as we move forward, and how important is that you do it? Some of this stuff should just flow off the top of your head. I need to fix this. I need to fix that. I need to fix something else. So please just jump in uh, and have a good look at what you've got to do. And any questions, just type them into the chat box. I shall be quiet for a little while, allow you to think. So pause the video. Go off and do the exercise. When you're happy with what you've done, simply restart the video and we'll continue on with the program. So where are we headed? I guess some simple stuff I want you to think about. Oh, sorry, I put a link to the workbook in the chat, so you should be able to download that workbook if you require it. That is the workbook for today. So the where stuff is on page 5, right? And then I just want you to quickly think here about the main. We do about customers and clients you want to serve, the products and services they demand from you. That might take a little bit of time. But the main thing is I would like you to think through, in the next 12 months, what's a tangible measure of your sort of success? Sales is probably the easiest way to do that. If we're currently turning over X number of dollars now, and then by the end of 12 months, we'd like to be turning over Y number of dollars. That normally relates to something in our business. That's an easy target for us to measure and get our head around. All right. But it could also be, and the subset of that could be new clients, it could be something else. But make some notes in your workbook to find the where. So just take a few minutes to do that. Just if all you get down is that sales number, that's okay. Yeah. So just defining really is the big picture for you. And I guess this is something that over time, it's important to go back and put a lot more things back into. So like a lot more thought into. So we're actually starting to think through this whole process of where do we want to go? What does it look like, smell like, feel like? The more real you can make this, the better. But this is something I would probably do at a more strategic level where we're starting to think about all these things. So that's what I'm saying. As a strategic plan, you probably need to have a 3 to 5 year plan, which explains all these things, and then focus here on, then drop this down to the 12-month stuff. Are there any particular outcomes you want to get in this next 12 months? So pause the video, go off and do the exercise. When you're happy with what you've done, simply restart the video and we'll continue on with the program. One of the things that's important is that you get your head across a strategy, right? And I find too many businesses, we have aspirations, right? We don't have a clear strategy. We have a bit of a goal, we have an objective, we have everything else. But I'd like you to think about, and you may need to come back and refine this in the future, but it's something that's really important that you think about. And the difference, for me, a strategy is a medium-term action, large in scope, but really importantly, it's decisive, right? It's about us making a clear decision, right? A clear decision on something. So we're making a choice or a decision on something, right? And as an example, I find people put down, grow our sales as a strategy, right? It's not a strategy, it's an aspiration, because you're not really making a decision on anything. But if you said our strategy is to increase our, sales of product X by a certain amount, or by focusing in a certain market, that to me is a strategy. That's been decisive. Too often we have aspirations and not strategies. And so what I'd like you to do is just complete this simple statement, right? So again, it's on page 5 in the workbook. There's just a space there to do this. But the simple statement is, we will, or I will, I don't mind how you do it, and that decisive action in order to achieve a particular objective. So this is something I learned. I did a lot of work in defense back in the old days, and they would do something like, we will secure this hill in order to control the battlefield, right? And if you think about it, you can say, well, we'll increase product X sales, by focusing on the SEQ market in order to do what? And you can increase, if I've said to improve margins, but equally it could be to gain market share or do something else, right? And that's something completely different, right? So the in order to is really important because it defines the context of what you want to do. So just take a couple of minutes and just whip out a strategy. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it's what it is. So we're going to do something, all right? So I'm going to grow my business in a particular market in order to do something. Okay. Any questions? Just type into the chat, but go for it. So pause the video. Go off and do the exercise. When you're happy with what you've done, simply restart the video and we'll continue on with the program. Then I want to step you through this growth by numbers process. And I guess this is a quite a simple process. And I guess I've also set it up for if you think a business where you have a strong sales process. So apologies to people like Brody who have a business which is really a product business. This is sort of more about a service-based business where you're looking to acquire new clients or acquire new projects or whatever, or it could also be a manufacturing business. But the principles are the same. You need to get to a point where you understand the amount of, the number of leads we need to have, therefore how we're going to get it. It's the same in any business. We need to understand what's the core unit that we need to work to. So in some cases it could be number of tons of product we produce, and then how do we particularly get that? How do we break it down? So just sort of highlighting that at the moment. So this is really quite a simple process. So we're going to step through it bit by bit, and there's space in the workbook to do this when we get there. So it's on page 7. And what we're going to work through is what sales do you require? I've said, 200K. And then we're just going to break it down to get to the point where the number of leads that we need to have to do that. And then we're going to work out the channels we need to work in and what sort of activity we need to have there. So we get some granularity in the business where we get some real clarity around what it is we need to do. But the model is quite simple. We've got sales, we divide by the average client value, the average project value, or the average unit value, whatever it is we do, to work out how many clients we need. We then work out what's the close rate that we have when we go from new clients to hot prospects. So for me, that's your sales conversion rate. So when you sit down and have a good quality sales conversation with people, then what is your close rate, right? And if our close rate's high, that's good. If it's low, it's low. We might need to work on that. From that, you can work out how many hot prospects you need to have, how many of those detailed sales meetings you need to have. You can then say, what's my conversion from the number of leads I have, the number of conversations I have with people, to the number of sales meetings that I have with people, if you like. All right? Does that make sense that we step it down like that? And then when we get to this point, that is the magic number. All right, we need to get 60 leads. Where are we going to get them from? And in a typical service business or professional-based business, you will have, your clients will come from either networking, from existing clients, from referral partners, or from some sort of broadcast activity, right? And I guess we then need to break that down and say, from what percentage of my leads come from that source, right? So, typically if I look across my client base, 10% of it comes from networking, about half my leads come from my existing client base. So great referrals from existing clients. So thank you very much for existing clients. And then another big chunk comes from referral partners, from people that I have a deep relationship with. A very small percentage, let's say 5%, come from broadcast activities, social media, direct mail, all those sorts of things, right? So understanding that percentage tells me how many leads that I need to get from each source. We can then think about a conversion rate. So if I'm going networking, how many leads would I get per event? Therefore, how many events do I need to get to? That sort of stuff. So we're just going to step through that. So a couple of questions in the chat box here. Oh, so Michaela, what do I use to track sales leads? To be honest, for the last 20 odd years, I've used a simple Excel spreadsheet, a simple pipeline spreadsheet. There's actually a sales course on my website, a free sales course on my website where I step through that sort of stuff. But you can use a CRM. I plugged most of it into CRM I use at the moment called Insightly, but you can use whatever CRM you want to use to do that. But it doesn't have to be anything complex. And one of my colleagues is a guru in sales, and he actually uses a whiteboard. He just tracks all his on a whiteboard. Yep. So it doesn't have to be complex, doesn't have to be technical, it can be quite simple. All right, so let's step through this process. Okay. So going to just work you through it. So just fill out these pieces in the workbook or scribble down notes on a piece of paper. Again, some of this stuff you're not going to have accurate numbers on or whatever. If you don't have accurate numbers, just pick a number, right, that you think's a number, and come back and refine it later and work through it later. So the first one is, what's your sales gap? So that's why I asked you to put down what are your aspirational sales for the next 12 months and what are your current sales. The difference between those is your sales gap. And let's say that's 200K. You're currently turning over, I don't know, 300K and you want to get to 500K. You're currently turning over $1 million, you want to get to 1.2 million. I don't mind what it is, but what is your current sales gap? So write that down. So pause the video, go off and do the exercise. When you're happy with what you've done, simply restart the video and we'll continue on with the program. Okay, so once you've done that, then the next step is to go, what's your average client value? I'm having trouble talking today. Your average client value or project value. So if you work on a project basis, you might say, I need to have projects. Or if you have clients and like I do, I tend to work on a client basis. It could be a project value or some sort of unit value. So what's the unit value that tells you how many units you're going to need to get? All right, put that in. So just pick a number. Let's say 20K, 5K, 2K, 1K, whatever it happens to be. 200,000. I don't mind what it is. Plug that in. You have a minute. Okay. Now you might need a calculator for some of this as you get going. Your phone is a good calculator. Jump into it. Next one, divide the sales required by your average client value to give you the number of clients you're going to need or the number of projects you need, whatever it is. So if your average project value is 20K, you're going to need 10 projects to get going. All right. So just break that down. Simple maths. We should almost have that done. Yep. All right. The next one's a little bit more complex. So I want you to think now about what is your sales conversion rate? Okay. So if you've got a good sales conversion rate, it'll be 80 to 90%. So this is where you have a hot prospect, somebody that that is, you're having a sales meeting where you're sitting across the table from somebody. They're in a buying mode and they're ready to go. What is your close rate from that process? Yep. If your sales process, I've worked on my sales process, but early in my business, I had a 20% close rate. I now have a closer to 80 or 90% close rate. Okay. So what is it for you? Plug the number in. All right. The next one, simply divide the number of clients you need by the close rate. This is where you might need a calculator if you're not good with fractions. But just work it out. Okay. So if you've got 10 new clients and a close rate of 80%, then you need roughly 12 hot prospects. So pause the video, go off and do the exercise. When you're happy with what you've done, simply restart the video and we'll continue on with the program. The next thing then is your second conversion rate, and that's your conversion rate from people that you that you I call them sort of leads, people that give an indication that they may want to work with you at some point, and how many of those do you actually get to sit down with you in a sales meeting? Now, some of you might say, well, I go straight to a sales meeting from those sort of conversations. That's okay. Then it's 100%, and then you close. Your hot prospects are the same as your number of leads. Like, this is not a rigorous process. It's just a structured way of breaking things down. So pause the video, go off and do the exercise. When you're happy with what you've done, simply restart the video and we'll continue on with the program. All right, and the last one is then just to divide those out so you get to the number of leads that you think you should have. Yep. So if your conversion rate is 20%, then you're going to need 5 times the amount of prospects as leads. So you might need to get to 60. Now, this is the important number, right? This is the number that is really important. Yeah, because it's the thing that most people don't focus on, is how many people do I actually need to sit down with in order to get to my target. So pause the video, go off and do the exercise. When you're happy with what you've done, simply restart the video and we'll continue on with the program. We just don't think about it. We just think, and often if we focus on the $200,000 target, it can be daunting, particularly if it's a big target for you, right? It can be really daunting to go, how am I going to achieve this? I'm not sure what we're going to do, blah, blah, blah. And therefore you panic and you don't do anything. You get into analysis paralysis and you don't do anything. So that the challenge is to break it down to a number that makes sense. Yeah. And for my longer term clients, we'll also break this down into an income matrix at some point. We'll break down that level of sales and put some more granularity into this, because sometimes the average client is not 20K. We have various different numbers of clients, different types of clients that have different values, all that sort of stuff. This is a simple exercise. We're saying, just give me some averages so I've got something to focus on. All right. So everybody got some leads? Okay, so that's good. So the leads are really important, right? Getting that sort of understanding of that's important. But the next piece is breaking it down into channels, right? So the channels to market are typically, where do your clients come from, right? So where do we get our clients from? And for the vast majority of professional service businesses or sales businesses in many ways, B2B businesses, we're normally talking around sort of 4 key channels, right? We've got some networking, or 3 key channels, I think, but networking, one-to-one, and broadcast. So my clients will be sick of me talking about that, but that's what I talk about. Networking, means you got to get out there and talk to people and find new prospects and new contacts, all that sort of stuff. You don't do that by sitting at home in your office and sending Facebook messages. You got to get out and about and go and meet people. All right. So networking is really important, because people buy from people, right? At those networking events, you're going to introduce yourself to new customers, but also potentially to new referral partners. And you're going to build strong referral partnerships out of this. So for me, I then think about, we've got to do some networking, and the proportion that you spend in each of these areas, so networking, referral partners, and broadcast activities, will depend on your business a little bit, right? Some businesses are more oriented to one to the other, but you need to do some invariably in every case. So let's just talk through the existing clients. How much work do you get from existing clients? So if you're not getting work from your existing clients, aren't referring to you, maybe you're not asking them, or you're presenting yourself as being too busy and that you don't have time for new clients, and therefore people won't refer to you. So I've had that problem in the past. Referral partners. Who are your referral partners? Do you have any good quality referral partners? And how they work with you. And the last one, which has become really quite popular, is this broadcast stuff. So how much work are you getting from social media? And I'm not talking about likes and all these other things. I'm talking about how much actual work comes from these things. So how many new projects you're getting, how many new clients you're getting, how much new business you're getting from that sort of stuff. My experience is it's quite low for most businesses, the actual business you generate from these things. I'm not saying don't do it. It's an important part of marketing, but it's not necessarily where a lot of business comes from, right? So I've just broken that down into social, direct marketing, direct mail type stuff, which is still really important. And then maybe some other stuff that you might want to think about. And you can go and change and, scribble across the top of these templates at some point in the future and change them all up. So if we use that as a model, is everybody comfortable if we use that as a model moving forward? If not, you just change the bit you want to change. Then I want you to think about what percentage of leads currently come from that source for me, right? So how much of your new business typically comes from networking, from existing clients, from referral partners, and from social broadcast activities? Just give yourself a quick number. Again, you're not going to have accurate numbers on this, and I'm comfortable for you to go back and fiddle with these numbers later to get some new things, but have a stab at it, right? Have a stab at it. They're typically the numbers that in my business, right? But that being said, I'm not particularly active on social media and other platforms. I do a bit of direct mail. You're all here today because of direct mail. I completely forgot to promote this on social media. So just plug some numbers in. All right. Yeah. And so I guess this is on page 8 too, for those of you working through the manual. So jump into page 8. So pause the video, go off and do the exercise. When you're happy with what you've done, simply restart the video and we'll continue on with the program. All right. So the next step, and apologies for pushing on, but we're going to run out of time, so I will keep going, is if you just then calculate the leads that you want based on that proportion, right? So if 10% of your leads, we need 60 leads. You remember, I came in my model, I need 60. Well, 10% of them gives me 6. So it's just multiplying that number out. Some quick maths to get that done. And then the next piece then is, I guess, the bit you're probably going to need to spend some time on. And I don't expect you to get this perfect today, right? But you might be able to just use the conversion metrics that I've got here, because some of this will be really, really challenging, right? So for networking, I think about it as a conversion metric, right? And then obviously a target for that. So if I think about networking, what's a conversion metric there, right? So how am I going to get these leads? It's quite often it's something like leads per event. For every event I go to, I pick up a lead. And I've sort of looked back at my sort of model and what I do. I roughly, for every 2 events I get to, I probably get 1 decent quality lead out of it, right? I also get referral partners and other things, but I get 1 decent quality leads out of it. You might think then about referral partners and go, well, if I got 1 lead per referral partner per year, I'd be pretty happy. Yeah. And just put some numbers in there. And then the difficult one, and I'm happy for people to type in some examples here of things that they think could be measurable. But what are some of the conversion metrics for something like social media? For me, I've sort of thought about what sort of meaningful engagement do I get per post, right? And I thought I get likes and comments and all that sort of stuff from posts, but probably every 10 posts, I get somebody come back to me with a more meaningful contact. Yeah, some sort of meaningful thing saying, hey, that was really good. Can we have a chat about something? Or, can I get some advice from you or whatever? So just try and think about that. But for me, it wasn't hard and fast. Yeah. Anybody got any ideas on what we could measure in social media? Yeah. So it could be, so some of the stuff in the chat there. Thanks. Engagement, Phil. Yeah, I think it's about engagement, but you might say the other one could be, well, how many meaningful engagements do I get per 1,000 clicks or 10,000 clicks or 1 million clicks in my case, right? So whatever it is, so what sort of meaningful engagement do I get? Yeah. Direct messages, yeah, could lead to a discovery call. So how many direct responses do I get? That's what I mean by meaningful engagement, Ryan, and that sort of stuff. Yeah. And that's the challenge, right? Um, Ben, is that, people don't necessarily it's hard to measure some of this stuff, which I find is the challenging part of social media. Okay, so let's just push on. And therefore, then the last piece then is really just then to divide your conversion target into your number of leads to work out roughly how many events you need to go to, or how many clients you need to talk to, or how many partners you need to talk to in order to get your thing. So that could then be, okay, if you look at it from this perspective, you go, okay, well, I've only currently got 12 really good quality referral partners. I either have to up this conversion piece, or I have to get more partners, or I have to do at least 300 posts before I get one meaningful, um, uh, you know, meaningful sort of piece out of it. Start to think about what it is that you need to do. The point is to help you focus on what's important. Yeah. So I'm assuming you've got some numbers here. So what I'd like you to do is just reflect on those numbers for a second. Just take 2 minutes. Do they make sense? Yeah, particularly the most important ones. Are those levels of activity achievable? Can you actually go to 400 networking events a year? That sort of stuff, if it's worked out for that. So therefore, some of your stuff could be unrealistic or not really. And then where should you be focusing your efforts? I think this is a great tool for helping you understand the priorities in your business and where you want to go. Yeah. So just take a couple of minutes to reflect on those. So pause the video, go off and do the exercise. When you're happy with what you've done, simply restart the video and we'll continue on with the program. Just a question from Julian here about using surveys. Thanks, Julian. Yeah, I do use surveys. I don't use them so much from a marketing point of view, but I have done in the past. I've often used them for content creation. So I'll actually do surveys and get insights from people and use them from that respect. But and then follow up with different people from that sort of thinking. But it's not something that I've done. I haven't used surveys from a marketing point of view. I assume that's what you were asking about, Julian. Yeah, cool. But really useful tool for creating content, for engaging with people, all that sort of stuff. Yeah, really, really useful for that. I'm also using part of my consulting processes on bigger projects and things. I'll use surveys a lot. Okay, so then I don't think I can share that with you, Ben, filling in the toilet, but anyway, that's fine. Let's carry on, shall we? I'll share this screen again. So what we've spoken about this morning, we've done a quick session around where are we now, and you can go back and put some more time into this. Where do we want to be? And sorry, we've talked about the now. We've talked about some of the where stuff, but now we're going to get stuck into what I call the big rocks, and the strategies piece, right? Which is really dropping into this how piece down the bottom of this thing, this piece here. The big rocks for me lap over into where and how, but let's just talk through this sort of process, because this is where the rubber hits the road. Lots of people spend a lot of time talking about where they want to be and what they want to do, but then we really need to get into some action plans. So for me, this is really about making it happen, and we're going to push through this reasonably swiftly, folks, because there's a lot to talk about. So big rocks, where do big rocks come from? It's something that I coined from Stephen Covey, his book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Fantastic book. There's an exercise in that where Stephen Covey talks about if you've got a container and you want to put rocks, gravel, sand, water into it, you need to put the big rocks in first, otherwise nothing fits, right? You can't get it to fit. And it's just about that, in making sure that you've got the big things done. And so from a business point of view, the big rocks for me are the major goals, the major things we need to do, the big chunks we need to achieve in order for us to achieve where we want to go. All right. And and so it's just that thing of saying, well, what are the big aspirational goals I have in order to achieve where where I want to go. And there are typically four areas that I think of, and here's the distillation of nearly 40 years. This is my 40th year as a consultant. 40 years of stuff. I found in life, in business, not in life, in business, there are probably four key areas that you need to have strategies and or goals around in your business. They are something around marketing and sales, something around operations and efficiency and processes, something around people and management, and lastly, sometimes something around finance and infrastructure, right? The last one for me is optional for lots of businesses because when we're often not in a position where we're going to have a debt structure, a debt finance, or we're going to go and borrow money to do something, or have a real finance strategy, or we're not going to go and build a factory or do something else that requires major infrastructure. You know, buying a new laptop is not a major infrastructure strategy, right? It's a part of operational efficiency, right? So just be, I would think for most people, and most people on the call today, we're going to have a big rock around marketing and sales. We're going to have a one around operations and efficiency, about increasing productivity. And if you're a lone wolf, like I mean, I've got a team in the Philippines and stuff, but most of you are going to have either a small team or yourself as the primary driver. You're going to have a personal development strategy, and they're the two I think down the bottom. So the plan should include, if you've got a team, a development program for your team, and then a or one for yourself, right? And that should be a big rock for you. Yeah. So what I want you to do is craft some big rocks. All right. Oh, some big rocks, and they go down in this section of the plan, but the big rocks are on page 11 of your workbook. Okay. So just develop somewhere between 2 to 4 big rocks. They're the large actions required to move you from now to where. Use, those things, personal sales, operational efficiency, people and management, personal growth and development, and maybe some finance and infrastructure stuff. If you've got a major deal going on, you're going to build a factory or something, then do that. Some examples down the bottom, grow our business in Southeast Queensland, improve our productivity, engage our team, grow my leadership skills, that sort of stuff. It's that big picture, right? So they're a big rock. And they're the three things that you might need to do to get things happening in your business. Yeah. Okay. And Ryan's very kindly given us a virtual croissant there. Thanks, Ryan. Okay. So just take some time, right? You got a couple of minutes. I want you to write down what are 2 or 3 big rocks for you. So what are you going to focus on, folks? What does the focus look like for you? So pause the video, go off and do the exercise. When you're happy with what you've done, simply restart the video and we'll continue on with the program. Next step then is to think about what are the strategies, and these are sort of strategic actions. We talked about a big overarching strategy before, but these are the individual strategies that would sit behind each of these big rocks. So define 2 or 3 strategies. Don't have to have too many, right? And the strategies could go a little bit longer. The big rocks are normally something that is quite chunky and probably would carry over for 1 to 2 years, and the strategies can do the same. Sometimes a strategy could have a short time frame. It's like a project or something you're going to work on, but it's going to be a I guess something that we can think about. And so some examples here, and I also use a cascaded numbering system when I do this, right? So I have big rock number 1, and then I have strategies 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, because the next phase we're obviously come up with some detailed actions, and then we have actions 1.1, 1.21, 1.32, that sort of stuff. So you've got some linkages between things, and you can track where things go. But what are your strategies, right? Just build some strategies for each of them. Some examples there. If your strategy is to grow your business, you might want to refine a particular product package or do something. You might want to improve your sales conversion. It might be simply develop a strong marketing plan, right? It could be to, get Phil or Ben on board to help you with your branding, right? Ryan to help you your with your videos and with your outbound sort of marketing material stuff. So, you know, just think about what it is that you might need and you might do, but make them reasonably big because you'll have a chance to put some detail in. And to be honest, you don't want any more than about 3 of them, right? If you're getting more than 3, you're getting too operational, and we can drop them down a level, as we'll see in a minute. So keep them high level, right? Biggest problem I have with most people, we want to get to the detail. We want to start working out how many horseshoe nails we want to have when we haven't worked out how many horses we need yet. Okay. So pause the video, go off and do the exercise. When you're happy with what you've done, simply restart the video and we'll continue on with the program. Building your big rocks and your strategies is actually a really critical component of building a strong plan, right? And too often we want to go straight to the detail. So too often we want to jump straight to the detail of what are all the detailed actions I'm going to take and what I'm going to do without making sure you've got the big picture right. So the big picture piece is to make sure you understand where you're going to go, that you understand your numbers and you've broken things down, but then also that you've got your big rocks, you've got some clarity around the big rocks. You've also again got some clarity around what are the big strategic actions I'm going to need to take in order to execute that big rock. All right. And then we just go to, righto, what are the actions? And when we talk actions, we're going to talk about a couple of things. We're going to talk about descriptive actions. So they need to be descriptive. I probably should have said your strategies also should start with a doing word. So I like them to start with, develop, create, build, enhance, ensure, all that sort of stuff, right? So you want to make it a statement that's a doing word. So you don't want to just put down marketing, because marketing's what it is. So what is it you're trying to do? This is all about getting to action. But particularly at this action stage, I want you to put down some words that start with doing, some actions, some statements that start with doing words and are quite decisive and clear. Who is going to be responsible for doing it? If you have a team, then it could be you allocate it to a team member, but it needs to be an individual, all right, who has responsibility for the carriage of that particular activity. Obviously, if it's you in your business, then you might just have, it's just you, so that's okay. And then the when. So I want you to pick realistic timeframes for this stuff. The easiest way to do this is just to pick a quarter, right? So when we start doing it, it's just to go the quarter that I find it's easy if you go, we're going to start the task in quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3. So the next quarter we're in it now already is Q1, right? Is quarter 1, July, August, September is the first quarter, October, November, December, the second quarter, etc. Right? So we're on a financial year basis for this plan. So just don't get too worried about it. You're going to do it in May or June or April. Just I'm going to start it in this quarter, right? Because we can always get to the detail. Remember we talked about cascading. When we get to the 90-day plan, you can actually then map out what month you're going to do it in, and then we can go to what week you're going to do it and that sort of stuff. So get the detail at the right level. At this level in an AOP, you don't have to have the detail down to days and months. Just a quarter is good enough. Okay. So does that make sense? And if it does, guess what you have to do now? Come up with an action statement for doing that. Remember, start it with a doing word. So, and it could be, like I've used down the bottom example there. If the example was to improve our sales conversions, you might go, okay, the 3 things we really need to do: update our sales collateral, build a better sales pipeline, and improve our sales skills, right? We're going to do that. Max is going to have that done, is responsible for that, whatever. But we're going to do that in Q1, Q2, but improving our sales skills, we're really not going to get a chance to start that till quarter 2, right? We're probably not going to get into that till October-ish. Yeah. Does that make sense? Yes. Clear as mud. Good. Carry on. So just take a couple of minutes now to build those strategies. So we probably got 10 minutes to do that. So I probably should have some thinking music for you, but I don't. I could hum something if you like. Don't go there. All right, guys. Just take the time. Probably got 8 minutes or so to really just get in and just map out some actions. And I guess the important thing is start to think about what are the priority actions, what are the priority strategies for you, and what are the must-do strategies, and then think about, well, what are the actions we must take in this one. So pause the video, go off and do the exercise. When you're happy with what you've done, simply restart the video and we'll continue on with the program. So pause the video, go off and do the exercise. When you're happy with what you've done, simply restart the video and we'll continue on with the program. Hi there, welcome back. We had some technical issues with the video, so I'm just going to record this session for you just to finish off the whole webinar. It just didn't go through for us. So now that you've got your plan, sort of got all the actions and strategies mapped out, now's the time to actually just sit down and go back through and think about what you've done and set up some objectives and measures so you've got some clarity and some targets to aim for. So this process for doing that is really quite simple. There's space in the workbook for you. Just review the growth by numbers exercise so you've got your head around some of the key numbers for you. Refine those numbers and get them to where you want them to be. And then for each big rock, clearly define a goal. So what's your goal with that big rock? Any key measures and an annual target. And the goal could already be what the big rock is, you know what I mean? So if the big rock is to grow your business in Southeast Queensland, then that's the goal, right? And then the key measures are just what are the things you might measure to let you know that that's working, right? So for argument's sake, the key measures for growing our business in Southeast Queensland could be, sales of 1.2 sales. That could be new clients, or they could be sales conversion percentages, right? So once we've got those measures mapped out, then we can go and set some targets. And our target could be 1.2 million, 10 new clients, 75% conversion rate, all right? And
and therefore you've just started to nail them down. Now, don't be concerned if there's some of your goals that you find really hard to get measures that matter for, because often it's hard to get a measure for something that's a bit softer. So for instance, one of your measures is improve my leadership skills. You may not be able to get a hard, clearly defined measure and or target for that. Maybe it's more ticking off some things, but don't worry too much about that if you haven't got things that are easy to define and measure. But importantly, you want things that are going to give you a bit of a roadmap for where you're heading and are you on track. Okay, so just take some time to actually develop those objectives and key measures now.
So pause the video, go off and do the exercise. When you're happy with what you've done, simply restart the video and we'll continue on with the program.
All right, so the next step really for me is just to make sure that your plan makes sense. So before we cascade to 90 days, I want you to go back and review your full annual operating plan, make sure you're comfortable with it and that you've got it at a level that you're ready for. And then you remember I talked very much at the start of the webinar about the need to cascade your plan to 90 days. So you're getting the detail at the right level. And so what we're going to do now is build that plan. So our 90-day plan is a bit similar to the annual operating plan. The thing is here, we're going to get a bit sharper about our goals. We're going to talk about key issues, a theme for the quarter, and any celebrations and rewards. But these things like the big rocks just carry over from your annual operating plan, right? So, and some of the strategies and some of the actions will pop over as well. So we'll talk about how you get through those. So the process for building a 90-day plan is to just think about what are 2 or 3 key issues relevant to this quarter, and you might just they could be anything. They don't have to be what's in the AOP. Look back at your annual operating plan, look at some other stuff, and it could be just need to get on top of my marketing, or need to build some momentum, or all those sorts of things could be there. Then I want you to define a theme for the first 90 days, right? For this next 90-day plan, I want you to define a clear theme for it, right? And that could be growth, it could be consolidation, it could be making a great start. One of the ones I've used before in my business is, start the way you want to finish, that sort of stuff. So give yourself a really good theme that means something to you. It doesn't have to mean anything to anybody else, just to you, that you're going to focus on. Obviously, if you're doing this for your team, it means it needs to be something that will work with your team. But if you're doing it for yourself, something that works for you. All right. So just take a little bit of time to put in the key issues and the theme, and we'll come back in a sec.
So pause the video, go off and do the exercise. When you're happy with what you've done, simply restart the video and we'll continue on with the program.
Okay, and then what you should do is then copy your goals, your key measures and your targets across from that exercise we last did, and then calculate your Q1 target. So what is the target for the first quarter? Now, it might be 25% of your annual target, but it could be a graduated or accelerated program as well, right? So you define what the target is for Q1 for any key measures and targets that you have for the year. Okay, plug that in and get that sorted.
So pause the video, go off and do the exercise. When you're happy with what you've done, simply restart the video and we'll continue on with the program.
All right, now once we've got our theme and our key measures and stuff in place, I want you to define a celebration or reward for hitting your target, all right? That could be a new Maserati, but it doesn't have to be something big. It could be dinner out, it could be a spa day, it could be just a walk on the beach. It doesn't have to be something big. It just needs to be something concrete that you do in celebration and for rewarding yourself for hitting your targets, right? This is something that we don't do particularly well in Australia. Other countries do this extremely well. The US in particular do it really, really well. We tend not to celebrate things, and I would encourage you to do that. It's a really powerful process. The dopamine hit that you get from signing off something and saying, I've done it, I hit my target, and going and giving yourself a reward is really, really powerful, and I encourage you to do that. So just take a couple of minutes now to define that celebration or reward.
So pause the video, go off and do the exercise. When you're happy with what you've done, simply restart the video and we'll continue on with the program.
All right, the next step we do, copy your big rocks from your annual operating plan. Okay, so just copy the big rocks in, and then once you've got the big rocks, I want you to go back to your annual operating plan and remember when we put in the timing in the last section of the annual operating plan, and I said just put the quarters in, Q1, Q2, Q3. So you just go and find the quarters that have a Q1 in them, and you copy across the actions and the strategies for under each big rock for only the actions that have a Q1. So don't copy everything across, just that have a Q1 start date in them, right? So then what you've done, when you've done that, you've actually got your plan. So just take a couple of minutes to do that.
So pause the video, go off and do the exercise. When you're happy with what you've done, simply restart the video and we'll continue on with the program.
Okay, so now we should have a fully mapped out quarterly plan that's got your priorities and all that sort of stuff. So what I want you to do though is just reflect and refine your plan. So make sure it's what you want. Make sure you've got some of the right level of detail in there. Put a bit more detail if you want to, because this is the important part, right? This is where the rubber really hits the road. We've got our 90-day plan. This is what we're going to focus on for the next quarter, and we're going to make it happen. So start thinking about what are the must-do actions here? What are the absolute priorities even in my 90-day plan? Because, we talked about cascading the detail at the right level. Not everything on that 90-day plan is going to be an absolute must-do, but you need to know which ones are the must-do, the things you must get done in the next 90 days. Otherwise, you're in trouble. Well, not in trouble, but otherwise you're not going to hit your plan. Okay, cool. So just take some time to reflect, refine, and get that right.
So pause the video, go off and do the exercise. When you're happy with what you've done, simply restart the video and we'll continue on with the program.
Okay, so I would love to talk to you now about productivity improvement, and I call this, I guess, focused execution. So over the last 40 years, particularly probably the last 20 years, I've really worked hard on improving my personal productivity, right? And I've worked really hard on that. And I've worked on it for the last 20 years. I've been hyper focused on it for the last 10 years. In the last 10 years, I've actually improved my productivity to the extent that I used to work 70 hours a week. I now work less than 40 hours a week for the same, well, actually for more revenue. So for me, and it's not about putting up my prices or doing anything like that to get the more revenue, that it's actually simply just been focusing on being really focused on the execution so that I'm really clear on what it is that I do. So I'm just going to step you quickly through this. There's a lot more resources around to do this, but just quickly today. All right, so the three keywords: focus, discipline, control. All right, the first one is focus, and that's about making sure you're working on the things that matter. And there are a couple of things to do here, is to cascade your 90-day plan. Then we've already done an annual operating plan to a 90-day plan. I would encourage you to then go, all right, so what, and you use the same template if you like, but what's my monthly plan look like? What are the priorities for the next month? If that's what I want to do in 90 days, what's the priorities for the next month? And then when you've got the monthly plan, what are the must, should, coulds in the weekly plan and daily plan? Now, this is a methodology that I use, and I've used it for quite a long time. And I really think at the start of the week, what are the must-do activities? What are the things I really must work on and get done in this next week? There are also some shoulds and coulds in there when they do that. And then when I get down to a daily plan, what are my musts today? If that's what I'm doing, that's what I want to achieve in the week. What am I going to do in the next day? And therefore, I just focus on making sure I get the must done. So must, should, could is a really simple concept. We talked about it earlier. But it's about ensuring that you're focused on the right task at each level. And I would really encourage you to do this. And so what I do is I try and have 2 must-do tasks that I do every day. All right? And then I time block those. We'll talk about time blocking in a minute, but I plug those into my diary and I find a time to do them, right? Actually, doing this video was one of the must-dos that I had to do because the recording didn't take, so I had to find time, and I blocked out time in my diary to do this, right? So I determined the must. So what I do is try and have 2 musts that I try and get done every day, no more than 2. And there's plenty of other things, because the musts are bigger picture strategic issues that I need to be working on that drop out of my planning. They're not day-to-day activities. They're not business as usual activities. I've still got to do all the business as usual activities. I've still got to do all my client calls. I've still got to do my client meetings. I've still got to run workshops and all that sort of stuff. But there are certain musts within those. So I need to do preparation for workshops. So I need to do that well in advance. There are musts that I need to do in advance so that I can deliver the workshops on time. So I'm really clear on what my 2 musts do every day. And if I do those 2 musts and I've got more time, then I pull up a couple of the shoulds and start to get into the shoulds, right? Rarely do I get into coulds, right? But the coulds become shoulds and musts over time, generally, all right? So use that as a methodology to drive things. Second really important word is discipline. And the discipline is about staying on track. So focus is about doing the right things, but discipline is actually about staying on track. Most of us lack discipline. And a couple of techniques here. So the Pomodoro technique, which is a really simple technique. I've talked about it plenty of times. There's actually a video on the Shift site about this, which is just, it basically works in half-hour cycles. You concentrate for 25 minutes and have a 5-minute break, and then you go back. And the research has shown that your concentration doesn't fall away if you stay on that, right? And you get extremely productive. But in order to do that, you need to take control of the environment, which we'll talk about in a little minute. But the Pomodoro technique is absolutely critical. And there's a number of timers and things that you can use to help you do this. And the good thing about the timers is it's like a ticking bomb. It starts at 25 minutes and it counts down. And if you stay focused, you're going to go, I've got 12 minutes to get this done, and you keep focused, right? Very, very powerful technique. Simple, but really powerful. The other thing is to make sure you chunk down your larger projects to make them a priority. Too often we'll have a task that will take us, we'll look at it and go, that's going to take me 4 hours to do that, right? And you go, well, I'll do that on Friday when I've got 4 hours of time. Often you won't have 4 hours of time when you need it. So it's actually easier to chunk it down, to break it down into I guess, bite-sized chunks so that you could do them. You might break them down into 4 1-hour blocks and fit them in during your day, right? And get them done during the week. So by the end of the week, you've done that task, right? The last piece about discipline is about changing your language. It's actually about changing your mindset, but that starts with your language, right? And too often we talk around activity. I'm working on this. I'm doing this. That sort of discussion. Instead of saying, I'm going to deliver this. This is the outcome I'm going to deliver this week. Yeah, I'm going to get this done this week. I'm going to send this to the client this week. I'm going to have this prepared this week, whatever. But change your language to be assertive, not aggressive, assertive, and focused on outcomes. And you will find there'll be a massive lift in your productivity, in your personal productivity, right? Use the same technique with your team, because that will really help them. Get them to talk about outcomes and deliverables rather than, I'm working on the Smiths. You go, okay, no, don't talk about the Smiths. When are you going to deliver the Smiths? Okay, I'll have the Smiths project done by Tuesday. Fabulous. That's what we want. Yeah. So it's a mindset change, but it's also about language. And the language I'm talking about is the language in your head. Yeah. Or out loud, whichever way you want to do it. But make sure that you change your language. It's fundamental. Control is the third word, right? And you've got to own the environment. So you've got to take control of everything around you, remove the distractions and all that sort of stuff. So you've got to turn off the distractions. So turn off the distractions, the notifications. Like think about the technology, our phones, our computers, everything else. The notifications technology is the same technology they use in poker machines and all that sort of stuff. It's about getting you engaged in whatever they want you to do, instead of you taking control and saying, no, I'm comfortable with what I'm doing. I don't need you to remind me of every single email that comes in. I don't, all that sort of stuff. So my thing is, when you want to concentrate and you're really in the zone, when you've got your Pomodoro timer going, turn off your phone, shut off all the notifications, even close down Outlook or your email program so you're not even seeing emails, and stay focused. And you go only for 25 minutes, and then you can turn them all back on, check your messages, all that sort of stuff, and check your emails if you want to, and then turn them off again, right? And because it's about taking control of the environment. And then the last technique is then time blocking to ensure you have the time allocated for the job. So that's about controlling your time, right? And when I talked about must-do activities, what I look at is in my day, I go, okay, so there's a must-do activities. I will estimate how many Pomodoros it will take to do me. So a Pomodoro for me is a 30-minute time block. So how many 30-minute time blocks will it take to do that job? I might say there's 2, right? So it's going to take me an hour to do that job. And then I will look through my diary at all the stuff I've got on for today with client calls, that sort of stuff. And I go, okay, I've got an hour between 1 o'clock and 2 o'clock free to do that. So, and I will time block it. I'll block that out so that nobody else puts an appointment over the top of it. I use a Calendly appointment system, so I block that time out. And then the last piece is then let's go back to discipline. I actually have the discipline to stop what I'm doing, other things, to go, okay, time to move on and do this task, and I make sure I get them done. And that's how I do my two must-do tasks every day. Okay, so focus, discipline, control. All right. The other thing that's really important that I've talked about is cascading your plans and getting the detail to the right level. And so we've talked about, going from an annual operating plan. I'm assuming you've got a strategic plan. If you don't have a strat plan, let's have a chat about it. It doesn't have to be a big document. You just need to think 3 to 5 years out. Then you can go, right, if that's what I want to be in 3 to 5, where am I going to be in a year? Where do I want to be in 90 days? If that's where I want to be in 90 days, what do I need? We're starting to get operational now, right? Bit of tactical, bit of operational. But what's my monthly plan look like? So what's my plan look like for July or August or September? Let's break out the monthly plan. Then we got the monthly plan. Okay, what am I doing the first week of the month, right? So what's my weekly plan there, and what's my daily plan? So you can see here we're moving from longer time frames to shorter time frames, but from big picture to more action orientated. This is absolutely critical to you being productive, a vibrant business owner, and putting some discipline into this cascading piece, I think, is really important. Now, to assist you in this process, I've actually put together a 90-day planner, right? And this is actually a hard copy book that you can actually buy from Amazon, and it actually steps you through the process of. It's got some tips and tricks and all sorts of other stuff in it, but it steps you through the process of going from 90 days down to a daily plan. So we start with our 90-day plan, and you can see here it's a similar format to the one we've just done, and then we drop down into a monthly plan, all right, which is just then a similar format, just dropping down a monthly plan. What are we going to do? How are we going to get there? Then we go to a weekly plan. We focus on what are the must-do activities, or should-do activities, could-do activities for that sort of stuff. Think about the language up the top here. We're talking about key deliverables for the week, all that sort of stuff. And then we're jumping into our daily plan. So what am I going to do? What are my must-do tasks, should-do tasks? These are your Pomodoro timers here, so you can actually understand the Pomodoro stuff, and blocking it all out, right? So that's that daily plan. So that's cascading from that 90-day plan down to a daily plan, and then each week you have a review, each month you have a review, all that sort of stuff. And so it's about just getting better and better at that. Now, I've also included a whole heap of stuff, information here about some information articles on things, and there's either often just a web page, a video, or a template or something that goes with that. So all these QR codes, these pages with QR codes, take you to places where you can get something like a video or whatever that will help you with time blocking on that sort of stuff, right? So I've tried to make it a comprehensive journal that you can do your planning in, but it's a written journal. Don't necessarily have a electronic version yet, but we'll get there over time. All right, and that is it's available on Amazon. Amazon is still messing around a little bit, but I've got the pre-delivery versions of it, but I'm about to put there, and we'll put the links into that when we into the resources that we send you. All right, so that's the time management stuff. Make sure you're really focused, make sure you're disciplined, and make sure you take control. Okay. So the next step then are add the elements of your plan, refine them into the AOP. In the workbook we've given you templates for the annual operating plan and the 90-day plan, but we'll also give you PDF templates so you can have them on a single page if you would like. They will be in the workshop materials. And then what I'd like you to do is get your plan to the point that you like it, put it away, and don't look at it again for a little while. Then in 3 days' time, when you've forgotten about it and you've been busy doing other things, I want you to pull it out and see if it still makes sense to you, right? And then refine it, edit it, delete it, modify it, do what you need to do and make it work. Now, you either need some peer support in this, so either send me a copy and I'll give you some feedback on your plan, or send it to a colleague and get them to give you some feedback, but you need some feedback on this, all right? So, really important that you do this cascading thing. I'm not saying you need to use my journal at all, but at some point you need to get down to how do I go from 90 days down to what I do on a daily basis. All right, so jump in and do that. Make sure you're using must, should, could as a prioritization method, and time blocking to make sure that you've taken control of the situation and you're actually putting that time in there, allocating the time to do some of the important tasks that you need to do. And lastly, change that mindset and change your language. Focus on outcomes, not activity. All right, we've got a heap of resources for you. We will send out the resources, including this video, on the Shift site. So we're going to send you the recording of the video, which we're finishing off here, the PowerPoint slides, any workbook links, resources, videos, all that sort of stuff. And of course, a link to how you can buy that productivity journal online. And then lastly, there are lots of free resources on the Shift site. Lots of resources around productivity planning, time management, business development. We've got free training courses there in marketing and sales. Lots of stuff there. Please contact me if you have any questions. I'm more than happy to help you take your business to the next level. Okay, so I hope you've enjoyed this webinar program. I hope it's been useful for you, and I look forward to seeing you in the future. Cheers.